Hello, so today we're gonna do it. We're gonna rank anomalies. I'm gonna go through each of the anomalies and I'm gonna rank them on this list from S to D tier. S being some of the best anomalies in the game, B being around average, and then D being, maybe avoid them if you can. Before we do that, please make sure to like and subscribe. I do daily TFT content. This is going to be more for fun content. I did an augment tier list yesterday. If you don't know, I have a border color scheme, just in case you know. So like these ones, take them with like lighthearted. They're not going to be the most informative, nitty gritty, improvement based content, but then there's also VOD reviews with purple borders and the guides with like the rose gold, like pinkish borders that are the most informative. Also, please make sure to check out my store if you so choose to. I have my Ukiyo-e style pictures on there with my Jinx and Caitlyn picture that was done recently, so you can check that out if you want to get any of those. There's links to it at the bottom of each of the videos as well. So now let's go through the anomalies. Like I said, this is a tier list. Obviously, I want to be very clear on this. The anomalies that you take should be the ones that best fit your board always. Ranking them is very reductive and is very bad practice, and I don't think that a tier list of anomalies is going to help out all that much, especially if you're a beginner player. If you want to learn more about anomalies and how to pick them, there is a guide on my channel. You can check out all my other guides. Remember, pink border, those are going to be the ones that are super helpful. This is mostly for fun content, and I want to make that very clear. This is mostly for fun. Now, that being said, we're going to rank them and give my opinion on the anomaly and where I think it could be good. These aren't going to be the exact Exodia spots, like if you have an Orn artifact and this comp and this unit and this thing, it works out perfectly. That's not the type of content I make on this channel. It never has been and never will be. So I'm going to be talking about in the general use case, like you're trying to play a board, you're trying to find something that fits with it. How do these go into play? Obviously, if it's an anomaly that's like almost always good on a board, it's going to be ranked a little bit higher than something that's very particular for a particular, like you hit everything, you got Exodia top decked out of your hand. Now, let's go through them all. Arcana Overwhelming. So, gain ability power equal to 30% of magic resist. I think this one's very situational. I'm going to put it in like B tier. I think we're just going to start it within B tier and we'll see where it goes out after. It gives a little bit of AP. It gives some magic resist. It's more for like frontline melee users. Like I can imagine it being really well on like a Mordekaiser, for example, especially if you have some sort of like, adaptive helm or something else like that. But other than that, I don't think it's that great. Attack expert. This champion gains 55% more attack damage from all sources. This one too, I think, is pretty like alright. I think this one, just because it gives 55% more AD from all sources, there's a lot of really cool effects that it can have on certain comps. So I'm willing to put it a little bit above Arcana Overwhelming, so I'm going to put it in A tier. I think if you're looking for AD, this is one of the better AD supplying anomalies. So we'll see with that. Avalanche of Armor, gain attack damage equal to 30% of armor, gain 70 armor. I'm going to put this also in B tier. It's similar to Arcana Overwhelming. It gives you like a good amount of a chunk of armor or MR, which is more for frontline, and that's what I mean. A lot of times when you're looking for an anomaly, you're not looking to give a bunch of AD or AP to a frontline unit unless you're playing a melee build. So Avalanche Armor is a little bit better because obviously like there's more AD frontliners, because like Smeech, for example. Arcana Overwhelming is probably good on something like Echo, I didn't mention before, but they're kind of B tier because it's like very particular. You can't use it on like, you might be looking for AP in general or armor in general, and these kind of fall short on giving you just like a stat that you need compared to some of the other anomalies. Avarice Incarnate. Gain 5 gold, gain 50% damage amp, and 1% more per 2 gold that you have up to 40. I think this is like D tier. I never in my life could ever imagine a spot where I will ever take this. Of course, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but basically, let me explain. If I'm looking for damage amp as an anomaly, or I'm trying to get damage amp on my board, I guess I can take this because it gives me damage amp. However, it forces you not to be able to roll. The anomaly does pretty much nothing unless you save all of your gold, right? It's 1% per 2 gold that you have up to 40%. So that means 35. So 35 per 2 gold. So you have to save up to like 70 gold. No, sorry, 25. You have to pay 50 gold. So this caps out at 50 gold. It's just bad. If you're staying with 50 gold, you're unable to level, unable to roll for units, unable to spike your board. The only time I would take this is if I'm in dire straits, I have a bunch of gold, and maybe I'm trying to go like fast 9, fast 10, and then I need damage amp, so I just get instant value off of it. Like if I'm 50 gold, I see this, it's like, okay, I just get, 40% damage amp and I just rock this and I go straight to level 9, straight to level 10, but it's something that loses its effectiveness over time. So I would rather just take any other damage amp source, right? So it's kind of awkward. It's very specific and it's very high roll, and it's kind of like a win more situation, which can also backfire really badly by hurting your max cap late game. Unless you like only need damage amp, unless you're like, my board is complete with the sole exception of damage amp, I would not take it. Now, I explained that a lot more detail because I want that to be like a general idea, because obviously that's why it's in D tier. I want you guys to use that as like the logic of how we're ranking the rest of them. Berserker Rage, 25 ability power, 25 attack damage, triple it below 70 health. I think this one's similar to the other ones where it's pretty good for like frontline units, but in general, I feel like it's pretty good. I kind of like it for A tier. I think if you're playing like a melee bruiser kind of build, like bruiser, I mean like, you know, attacking frontline unit, it would be really good. So I like it in A tier, but we might move it down a little bit. Brutal Claw. This champion gains 40% critical strike and their bleed deals. I think it's like solid A tier. Maybe Berserker Rage a little bit low. It's pretty specific, right? Because Berserker Rage, you usually don't take it. Yeah, Berserker Rage I think is B tier because it doesn't work really well on backline units. Brutal Claws, however, is really great. I think Brutal Claws is good on anybody, even backline units. You basically get a bunch of critical strike chance and it does extra damage of the same type. So you get a bunch of crit chance and a little bit of extra damage a little bit of extra damage in the form of like this extra bleeding effect. So it's really good on units that hit multiple units in your backlines. A lot of times I take Brutal Claw on like a Zoe and a Sork build, for example. Obviously there are better anomalies, but as a general take-all, it's pretty reliable, so I would put it in A tier. Bully, I think Bully's good when you have the opportunity to take it. It is 36%. It's basically like for reroll lines in particular. I would say it's either A or B tier. I'm not sure exactly, but let's just put in like B tier. And maybe like A tier. I think it's like B tier because it's a little bit specific. It's not that good unless you're playing reroll, and even when you're playing reroll, there are other options that are higher cap, but it's something you usually take if you need it. So somewhere in B tier. I might also put these ones lower one. I think this kind of spreads it out a little bit, so I'll put it like this. Bulwark, I think is great. Just a large amount of armor, I'll put in A tier. Calling card, I think is very situational and sometimes is really good. So I'll put in B tier because a lot of times this is just bait. It doesn't give you the thing that you want. It only works with very specific comps where you're happy with both emblems on a particular unit, like a Cassiopeia or a Leona. Or if you have a unit like a Jace or a Tristana where it guarantees you like the Giga Exodia max cap. So obviously this can be S tier in certain comps, right? Like let's say you're playing Artillerist, it just gives you 6 Artillerist over on top of a Tristana. Like yeah, it's S tier for sure, but usually it's like B tier. Center of the Universe, this one's just solid A tier. I'm willing to put in S tier as well. It's hard to say. I think Center of the Universe is like a never skip. Like if you see it, you just take it. Basically, you get 6 targets at orbit, and then each target deals 80 magic damage. You can put it on anybody. You don't have to put it on your main carry, but basically just put it on a backline ranged unit, and you put that unit in the middle of the board, and then you basically just have them do chip damage to like the rest of the board. And it's like chip magic damage, which is fine. Maybe if you're playing AD, you don't have Shred or Sunder, so it might not be as strong, but it's just really good just to give your team like a little bit of base damage, and it's pretty much like almost never skip. Like if I see this, I have to really think about skipping it, like unless I really don't need damage. It's pretty much good on every comp, any unit. You just put on some random shitter unit and you just let them do bonus damage to the rest of for the rest of the fight, basically. It's very commonly picked. Just really good in general. Comeback story. So this is one I was talking about. I think comeback story is really good. So when I was talking about Bully, right? I said Bully, it's 12% damage amp increased to 36% against units. Comeback story caps out a lot higher than that, right? It's 5% damage amp for every 10 player health that you've lost. It can go up to 45 damage amp, but typically you can get around 40 damage amp just by like, you know, being like 80 HP down, like 20 HP or so. So to pass like the 36, it's like as long as you have like 25-ish HP or so, you're already around the same as Bully. But it caps a little bit higher. So I like to put in A tier for that reason, right? Bully is way more specific. It only works with reroll lines, and it only works if the reroll line is fighting a lower star level. So if you reroll into reroll, it also loses a lot of effectiveness. Comeback story doesn't have that issue, albeit it's gonna start out a lot lower than Bully because it's not gonna be how do I phrase it? You're not going to be fully ramped up unless you're like giga lose streaking, you have very low HP, but it does cap higher eventually in the late game, and it has good effectiveness usually when you take it as well. Cosmic Rhythm is removed from the game, so we don't have to worry about that. Call of the Week. So this one's one of those ones that can easily just win the game on the spot. There's a lot of broken combinations with Call of the Week. But basically, it's just giving you a bunch of critical strike chance, and then you're targeting the lowest percent target in range. I would put it either in A tier or B tier. It's hard to say. There are some win conditions with this, so I'm down to put it in A tier just to be like with the other ones. But you know, we might shuffle it a little bit later. We'll see what ends up being in A tier. Cultivating Magic. Gain 30 ability power, gain 5 ability power permanently for every 10,000. I feel like these are, I don't know if they're bugged or if they're just bad. I don't know what it is about these. I feel like it fucking sucks. I don't know about you, but I've taken this once or twice. It does not scale. Like, my unit does 10,000 damage, but it doesn't like count the 10,000 damage properly. I don't know what it is. I don't really care to find out, but something about it is fucked. I don't know what it is. It does not work well. Either way, the scaling on it is so much worse than some of the other scaling ones. There's one of these for AD and one of these for AP. Unless you're in a really desperate spot that it fits your board perfectly, I would not take these. Like, there's very few boards where you look at that and you say to yourself, yep, that's what I want on my board. It's like, no, it's like, if you're gonna take something that has to scale over time, it scales so slow. Obviously it's not really bad, but it's like, it's generally pretty, like, you know, unless I really need AP, like, you're pretty much just getting like 30 AP, and then it maybe gets you up to like 50 or 60 AP. And if you read some of the other ones, it's like you get more AP off of these ones, right? You get more AP or AD off Attack Expert or other AP ones. It's just not worked. Also, Cybernetic Speed. I think this one's D tier. I have never... Oh, wait, no. Cybernetic Speed is different. This is for each component. 8% attack speed at combat start, an additional 2% each component held by the team. I actually don't know how good this one is. I'm going to put it in B tier. I feel like I've seen some people pop off with it, but generally I see it not doing really well. So I actually don't know because I haven't personally tried it out. All the other ones, I've tried out at least one time. So I have a little bit of like a barometer for like, okay, in this fight, I saw how it worked out in a situation where I needed the stat and how it scaled and whatever. I haven't tried out Cybernetic Speed, so I'm just going to put it in B tier because I'm not 100% sure. Deep Roots, I think, is A tier. Deep Roots gives you stun immunity, 700 HP, 25 armor, 25 magic resist. There's broken combinations with it, of course, but basically anytime you're playing any sort of front line, it gives you a lot of stats for the front line. You almost never skip it. It gives you armor, MR, as well as a bunch of health. It's just perfect, right? If you're looking for a frontline anomaly, bang, you just have a frontline anomaly. Defense Expert, the champion gains 90% more armor and magic resist from all sources. I feel like this one's always like feels really diminishing returns-y. I think it's good in some cases. It's either C or B tier to me. I'm willing to put it in B tier just to not be offensive to people who might like it, or maybe like this, you're a fan of it. But it basically gives you extra armor and magic resist. But it's from all sources. I think it only really works well with like Sentinels, but then it feels very diminishing returns on Sentinels. It gives you a lot of armor and MR, but you have to have the items for it. So like this is like really good in very specific spots, but I'm never really like inclined to take it instantly. I don't think rolling for an anomaly is particularly great, which we'll talk about a little bit at the end of the video as well. Diving in. On first cast, leap to enemies. I think diving in's like, there's the other one that has the stun that's a lot better. So I'm willing to put it in B tier. It's so hard. I think a lot of the anomalies are very situationally strong. I'm gonna do a little interlude. Listen, little interlude. Ready? Everybody? We're gonna talk about something real fast. Every time I've ever VOD reviewed my own games, I've never looked at a game and said to myself, damn, I'm happy that I rolled a lot of gold for my anomaly. Almost every time I get an anomaly, I feel like I overrolled for the anomaly. You almost always take the first thing that works out really well for your board. Of course, there are broken combinations and you can try and dig for the broken combination, but the gold that you spent to try and find the broken combination often hurts you way more than the anomaly benefits you. And I know that sounds like a little bit counterintuitive, and you might think of, oh, well, I know this particular example where it's not the case and blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. Actually look at your games and actually look at how much you're throwing your LP away by rolling deep for anomalies, and you will come to the same conclusion as me, I guarantee you. I talk about it a lot more in my anomaly guide if you want to have a better understanding of how to pick anomalies. But that's what I'm trying to, that's why it's really hard to rank them on a tier list. Because obviously, like, I'm putting Bully in B tier. Do you roll past Bully if you have a 3-star? No, of course not. Even Avarice Incarnate, if you need damage amp, do you roll past this shit? No, you take it instantly. a lot of these are instant takes if they're the stat that you need. If you look at your board and you're like, I really need X stat on my board, you just take it instantly. They're all S tier. You know what I mean? It depends on your spot. They're all S tier. I'm just like, mostly this is just like how commonly are they useful to your board is more of what this tier list is. But you know, it is what it is. Dragon Soul, I think is pretty good. It's good on certain boards. I'm gonna put in the same tier as B tier, like the same as like needing things. Dramatic Entrance, this is the one I think is broken. Dramatic Entrance, you can put it on not your main carry. You could put it on your main carry if you really need to, but a lot of times you can put it on a non-main carry unit. You can just put on some random shit unit and you get a free stun. And the stun used to be bugged. Now it's a lot worse, but it used to be like S tier because the stun was like the QSS was immune to it. I think now it works on QSS units. So just really good. Like, this is something you just take and it works very, very commonly and it just helps out your board. It's arguably S tier, but I don't think it is because like some boards you don't really care about the stun as much as you care about benefiting from extra stats. Center of the Universe is a little bit better because it just gives you like, it just gives your whole board an extra bit of damage, which is a lot, I think a lot better than the stun in some cases. Because sometimes by the time the stun happens, your board's already dead. Dual wielding, I really like dual wielding. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I think that just getting more items, like, unless you don't need the extra items, I feel like just getting extra items are pretty reliable. Just like, yep, that's good. It's just good value, and it helps you like itemize another unit. It's often just like, you know, it's not like to play for max cap. It's not broken by any means, but it's just a very commonly, yep, that helped me out. You usually can't go wrong with this unless your unit that you use it on is like really awkward and then you get like weird items. Like one time I used it on like a Caitlyn and I got a red buff when I already had a Morello, you know, like something like that. Sometimes you get griefed by it, but generally it's just good. You can just get 2 extra items, itemize a second tank, itemize a second carry. Eagle Eye I think is like B tier. It's like very situational. It could be really strong, but maybe it's like C tier. Might be C tier. This one's like I'd put in C tier. Energy Absorption, gain 30 ability power each time an ally dies to gain 8% of their ability power. This one I think gives just more ability power in general. Like Cultivating Magic obviously has a higher cap, but Energy Absorption, look at this. Like read the 2 of these, right? Cultivating Magic, gain 5 ability power every 10,000 damage they deal. So basically, you have to scale up, and a lot of times you don't do 10,000 damage in a turn because for some reason it doesn't fucking work properly. I don't know why. There's multiple times that my unit does over 10,000 damage. I don't get the 5 ability power because it's like doesn't count it certain types of damage in some ways. I don't know what the deal is here, but Energy Absorption, like you get 8% of their ability power. Like if you're playing this with Sorks, for example, like it's so much better. But like in general, like most units have like around like 100 base AP or close to it, maybe like 50 to 100 base AP. So if you're getting 8% of that each time, every time your unit dies, you get 5 ability power. Like, would you rather have this that you have to wait to scale up, or would you rather have this that upfront gives you like thing? Like this obviously caps higher, don't get me wrong. In certain spots, it can be way stronger, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like Energy Absorption, pretty good. Essence of Navori. Max mana, oh, that's not in the game anymore. Fireball. For every 70 mana, oops, sorry, my thing is, my music is paused. Let's go back here. Fireball. For every 70 mana spent, throw a 2 hex fireball that deals 6% max health true damage and burns for 5 seconds. I think that's like, it's good in certain comps, like with visionary comps, it's really good just because it chews away a lot of the HP. But in general, 70 mana is a large ask. So unless you need extra damage, really, it's not that good as just getting stats, in my opinion, on a lot of other comps. So it's like B tier. It's good sometimes, not necessarily great the best. Force of Friendship, I think, gives an insane amount of damage amp. I'm willing to put this in A tier. Like, if you think about Force of Friendship, like, star level on board and 3 stars gain 8% damage amp. A lot of times it gives more damage amp than Bully. I think it gives a lot of damage amp, even if you're not playing reroll. It also works with golems and training dummies. So there's a lot of use cases where you can just take this for like a bunch of damage amp on your board. Just think about it like, let's say you have like 8 units on your board and they're all 2-star. It gives like around 15 or 16% damage amp. So as soon as you have 1 3-star, maybe it's not that much. How much is that? 2, 4, 6, like 16% damage amp. You really need 3 stars actually. Never mind. Maybe it's in the same tier as this. I'm going to put it down a tier in B tier. Yeah, it doesn't give that much damage amp. Yeah. I miscalculated. I remember I did the math one time, but that's with a training dummy. That's why my numbers are off. It's really good if you have a training dummy. If you don't have a training dummy, then it's pretty much just reroll. Yeah, that's how it is. Sorry about that. Fortified, gain 12% max health every 4 seconds, gain another 12. I think this is A tier. Just gives you a lot of frontline ability. Freestyling, 4.5% damage amp for each non-unique trait you have. This is very situational. I'm going to put in B tier because if you're not playing a board that could fit in multiple traits, it's pretty useless. However, if you are playing like a board where you fit in multiple traits, then it does work really nicely. But the problem is, by the time you pick your anomaly, you can't pivot into a freestyling kind of board. That's the main issue with it, right? So this is clearly like S tier or A tier if you can have a board that supports it. But the big problem is that by the time you pick your anomaly, your board is already settled. You have your main tank, you have your main carry, so it's kind of like hitting Exodia. That's how it feels, at least. You have to be playing a board that can allow itself to play multiple traits to actually make use of this, or else it's just going to be very middling a lot of the time, right? Like often, like, you know, you might have like 3 or 4 traits active, then you're only getting like 18 damage amp. It's not that bad, mind you, right? It's not that bad. 18% damage amp. It's more than bully in some cases, but for an augment, it's pretty like eh. Or sorry, for an anomaly, it's not that great. Giant size, I think it's still an A tier. One of these might go up to S tier. Like, I'm not sure. Maybe Deep Roots is S tier. Like all these tank ones, they are like giant size isn't the greatest of the tank ones. It only really matters if you need upfront HP, but you almost always take it because it's just so much frontline. The same with like Deep Roots. Deep Roots is just better in my opinion. A lot of times it gives 700 HP, so 300 HP less, but 25 armor and magic resist and can't be stunned. I feel like it's just better in general. I like it way more than Giant Size, for example, but I don't know if it's like S tier, right? And Fortified as well. You gain 12% max health, and every 4 seconds you gain 12 more. It's like, you know, it could also go into S tier, you know what I mean? Headhunter. Oh, this one fucking sucks. I'm putting this in D tier. I don't give a shit. Holy crap, does this one suck. Every 1 kills permanently gain 1% more. This takes so long to ramp up. I clicked this once or twice, and I said never again, and I've never seen anybody click it. If you ever see somebody take Headhunter, I've never seen it work out a single time. In all the lobbies of all the games that I've played, I look at everybody's anomaly every single game. I have never seen, I've seen Headhunter maybe like 10 times, and of those 10 times, the numbers of top 4s that I've seen are 0. I swear to God, there's no way this is ever, like, it has to scale faster. It does not scale fast enough. I think it upfront, 50% attack speed isn't that much. It's pretty shit. And then on top of that, you're trying to scale it, and it's not even that good, the scaling on it. I don't know. It takes way too long for this to actually realize its potential. You have to be in some giga high roll spot to make any use out of it. Heavy hitter. Attack steal bonus physical damage equal to 20% of this champion's max health. I think this is C tier. Very rarely do I ever find myself in a spot where I want to do this. Like, this only really works with like a particular bruiser build, right? Pretty much it only works with a bruiser build. But it has a cooldown as well because there was like a bug with it. So like, Hive Mind, I don't want to rank Hive Mind. Okay, guys, I'm not going to rank it because I don't know if it got bug fixed or not. Last I checked, it was still bugged, that it wasn't giving you the cash outs properly. I genuinely don't know if it's still bugged, so I don't click on it, right? Now, maybe that's a grief. Maybe it's really good. Maybe we should click on it more. I'm telling you guys now, I cannot reasonably rank it because I did not see them say that they fixed it in the patch notes. And I have not been watching enough streams to listen to somebody else having tried it out and tell me that it's fixed. So I'm not going to figure out if it's fixed or not. I'm going to wait until I know without a reasonable doubt from seeing it with my own eyes of somebody's gameplay that it's fixed before I even try and click on it. Because if not, I don't want to grief my game. Get it? Understood. Hunger for Power, I think, is B tier. Very situational, but it's really strong. If you, like, this used to be really good if you're rerolling, like, with Urgot and, like, a Bruiser used to be broken. You just get a bunch of HP on your unit by consuming them. You get HP and AD. It could be really good, but I think it's pretty situational. But it's situational, but it caps really high, so I'll put in B tier. Hypervelocity, gain 12% attack speed on cast, gain 15% stacking attack speed. I don't know how good this is. I'm going to put in B tier. I have not tried it out. I think it's okay. I have seen it work on like Twitch lines or some Gwinsu lines. Multicasting lines, I've also seen it work. I think you get your attack speed saturated too fast, so it's not that good for an anomaly, but it's okay if you really need attack speed. So I'm okay with like B tier. I'm not sure. Infectious, S tier. If you can afford to take Infectious, this shit always is like a giga win con. right? This is like the WinCon augment. It is so, or WinCon anomaly. It is so busted how fast it scales. They nerfed it. It still feels insane. The only problem is if you're able to take it, like you need to be a bit ahead, obviously, because it's something that scales over time. But this shit, basically you just ramp up AD and AP. If you're playing a comp where you need AP and AD, like for example, like Scrap, ambushers, like anything where you can stack up these stats really high, it's almost an instant click. Like you usually can't see something better, and it's so strong. It's just like you just need to make, like, you can't take it if you have 0 HP. You know what I mean? That's the only time you don't take it. Or you don't take it if you're playing something like Sorks, where they already have a bunch of AP. So like you're scaling like a small amount of AP per round that doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like comps like that, you don't take it. But other than that, you're taking it. Into the Unknown. Champion disappears. I think this is D tier. I've never clicked this once. I've never seen anybody click it once. I think it sucks. Your champion disappears for 3 rounds. You just lose your champion for 3 rounds. Huh? 3 rounds? That's enough to go 8th. That's literally enough to grief your game and go 8th. And it only gives 50 ability power and 50 attack damage. I don't even think that's that much. Like honestly, it just doesn't feel great. Of course there's ways around this. Like you can play like 2 copies of your unit, and then like the other copy that doesn't have the anomaly can like play and fit in on your board. It's like you have to have such a high roll specific spot to make this work out. I will never click this. Every time I've seen this, I've never looked at it and said, yes, I can sacrifice losing a unit on my board for 3 rounds. I have not one time, no matter how high roll I am, it never feels like the right decision. I would rather spend 1 more gold and take the next anomaly than take this. Like, seriously. Invisibility, B tier, maybe A tier. It's really strong on the units that it's strong on. It's basically a free, I think it's like one of those Giga win outs. I'll put in A tier, I think. I'll put in A tier. I'll put in B tier. It's like, it's really good on like Camille and Ambushers and Smeech and all of that. But like everybody else, it doesn't feel that great, I would say. It's also good on Enforcers sometimes. Like if you have a Caitlyn that you're trying, or sorry, a Vi that you're trying to like pop off with, it could work out really well. Kill streak, gain 20 mana each kill. This is like a solid A tier for casters, I think. Actually, no, I think it's B tier. I think it doesn't give that much mana, and it requires you to kill everything, and a lot of the boards now require like extra stuff. Like we'll talk about the other one. There's kill streak, and then, well, maybe we could go here. We'll go kill streak A tier. I think it's really good. It's still really good. If you have a caster build, getting mana is just so powerful. It's almost always a click. It's just like it's just an A tier. And there's a lot of caster builds, that's why. It's not like B tier where it's very specific in terms of what you can use it on. Like pretty much any caster you can put that on. It's pretty good. Knockout. 15% attack damage. Next attack after casting gains 35% critical strike. B tier. I don't think it's as bad as the C tier ones. I don't think it's A tier. Laser Eyes, I think, is very specific. I very rarely see this pop off. I'll say it now. Laser Eyes with Echo, I think, is the most I've ever seen this thing pop off. Every time else, it feels pretty lame. You have to put on a frontline unit. It might work on like a Swain if you're playing like Swain Sorks or something like that. Like, you know, something like that, it works. But I feel like for AP frontline units, you're really limited in who it's really good on. Echo, I think it's like absolutely insane on, because he just pops like ult and pops the ambusher proc on it. But I don't know. I'd put it in B tier. It's B tier or C tier. Honestly, I think it's C tier. It's so specific where you take this, right? At least with stuff like knockout and like invisibility. Like invisibility is specific, but like you can use on multiple different comps. This one's pretty much usually only on an AP frontline unit, of which there's a lot fewer than just any frontline unit. Knockout, it's like you can still put on like a backline unit, and like some of these other ones you can put on frontline or backline. It's like, I don't know. Last Chance, I think, is busted. I think Last Chance, on any reroll comp where you have one of those units, it's pretty much like Giga win out. It's so annoying to deal with. It used to be bug, but now the bugs are gone. Legacy Shurima, I think, is pretty fucking strong. It's either A tier or B tier. I think it's like B tier. Yeah, it's hard to rank all of these ones. Like, Last Chance is so broken on, like, Smeech and Urgot that it's, like, it feels stupid to put it here. Because obviously, like, then everything would be B tier. So it's like, it has to be, like, a little bit better than some of these other options, right? Like, if I'm comparing Last Chance to, like, Invisibility or, like, I don't know, some of these other ones that are more melee focused, it's clearly better than those ones. So it gets to go in the A rank, but it's, like, it's not better than, like, you know, if I think about Last Chance versus Brutal Claws is just, like, always better, like, because this is just, or not, is most of the time is better, just because this one's just, like, so specific. But, you know, it is what it is. Mage Armor, and this one's really good, but it's pretty specific. I would put it in, like, B tier, because there's a lot of units that can make use of this, especially with the Sork line. But in general, it's not that great, but it could work out really well. Because there's a lot of items, even if you're playing AD, there's a lot of AP items that end up being frontline items, and that's where this really shines. Magic Expert, 40% AP. I think it's the same as, like, Attacks Expert. We'll put it here. You just get a bunch more AP, so it works out nicely. Magic Training, gain 15 ability power. On cast, your team gains 2 ability power for every 20 mana spent. I feel like this one's, like, B tier. It's, like, similar to Cultivating Magic, except instead of permanent scaling, it just works within a fight. And sometimes it works out okay. I think this works really well with Visionary lines, and it could also work with some of the other AP caster lines. Just because chain casting is pretty important nowadays, and it also works, it's for every 20 mana spent. So the thing is, you don't even have to chain cast. It's like, if you have a unit that has a high mana threshold, it will still grant the ability power to everybody else, which is pretty good. And it gives your whole team the ability power. Unlike Cultivating Magic, where it's only on the one particular unit, Magic Training makes it so that, like, you actually can put it on a unit that has a bunch of attack speed and is casting a bunch, and then it gives your whole team AP. That's why it's, like, B tier. Makes sense? Makes sense. Mini-Me's, I think, is really good on units that are attacking multiple times. This is, like, Giga Broken on Gwinsu users, so I'm just gonna put in A tier, because, like, obviously you roll past it if you don't need it, but it also reduces armor and MR, so if you're looking for something that gives you AD, this is pretty good to just put on anybody. It's not necessarily that good on low attack speed units, like somebody like Corki, for example. But in general, if you're looking for AD, a lot of times this synergizes with AD comps, if that makes sense, right? Well, what are your AD lines? Enforcers, maybe it's not the best on Enforcers. Scrap, it's pretty good on some units in Scrap. And then other than that, it's going to be Zeri, it's going to be Twitch, it's going to be, like, Gwinsu users. So, like, a lot of the time, if you're looking for AD, it's good. That's why it's in, I think it's one of the better AD giving ones. Miniaturize. Transform into an item. I think this got removed, so I'm not going to count it. Nothing Wasted, I think, is... Honestly, I'm willing to put in S tier. I feel like Nothing Wasted is just so fucking good still on so many comps. Like, anybody who wants to cast, I think this is the best mana generation out of all of them. And often it just like, out of nowhere, it just gets cast off. I don't know. I feel like there's so many times where it looks like you're about to lose the game, you're about to lose the round, and then Nothing Wasted procs because you kill a bunch of units. It's so good. I'm willing to put in S tier. 1,000 Cuts, I think, is B tier. It's a little bit harder to make work. It does work really well with Gwinsu users. Is it A tier? I don't know. This tier list is going all fucking shit now. Like, this one is so much better in general. This is only good on Twitch, and it's only good on the other thing. It has no extra utility. I'm gonna put it in B tier. It's really good, but I can't reasonably put it in A tier, because, like, A tier, like, a lot of these A tier ones are, like, good on certain units, but if you don't hit it on the exact unit that you need, it's still good on some other board. The problem with 1,000 Cuts is it's only good on Twitch, and it's only good on Zeri. Like, it's only good on, like, the Giga Gwinsu stackers. Like, other units do not stack Gwinsu enough to actually make these worthwhile. In all honesty, it's pretty much only good on it's not even that good on Twitch. Some of the other ones that give flat AD are a little bit better on Twitch, because Twitch attacks, like, spread throughout multiple different units. Like, it's pretty much only good on Zeri. Like, of course, you can find the use cases where it's good on other units, but it's like, you're very rarely going to take this to put it on, like, an AP line, on a AD line, on a, like, you know what I mean? Like, Mini-Me's at least gives you armor reduction, which is another added effect. So it gives you 30 AD, so it gives you AD. It gives you extra damage. Sorry, it doesn't give you AD. Sorry, it basically, like, it gives you every 3 attacks, it gives you an extra 30 AD of damage, which is fine, right? And it's 3 minis, so it's like 3 of them doing 30%. So it's like it's doubling your 8. Like, you do like a pulse of damage every 2 attacks, sorry. So it's pretty good, right? If you're playing around AD and you have high AD. And then they also reduce the armor, so it makes it so you do a little bit more damage, which is helpful. So, like, there's more use for it than 1000 cuts, where it's like, unless you have a Guinsu and you have giga attack speed, it really doesn't give that much extra power. I don't know. Maybe like, it ramps up really well. Guys, if you think that it should be A tier, well, I'll just do this so I don't offend anybody, because then all the fucking people in the comment section are gonna be like, but it should be A tier, because if this one was A tier, and it's like, they're all shit. I'm trying my best. Power absorption. Gain 30% attack damage each time, gain 9% of their AD. Where did I put the other one? I put it here, right? I put magic expert here. Where did I put, I think it's like in the same tier as that one. There was one that I had. There was the AP one. I think I put in B tier. So I'll put it in B tier as well. If I put in A tier, then it should have been in A tier. Power up. Gain 20 attack damage every 5. Oh, yeah, this one fucking sucks. We're going to put it in C tier. Protective shielding. Combat starting every 8 seconds. Grant 12% max health shield to yourself and 2 lowest allies. I think this also goes in A tier, which is really strong for frontline. A lot of times, frontline anomalies, you can't go wrong. Because besides, like, your board having infinite frontline and really needing extra damage, having extra frontline is pretty generic and it's pretty fine, right? If you have a melee frontline user, let's say you're doing like an Echo, or you're doing what's it called? Echo or whatever the fuck, Smeech or something, it's fine to have extra HP and tankiness. If you're playing any sort of line where you have a frontline unit that is trying to live, it's fine. A lot of times, TFT fights are determined by how stable your front line is. If you have a stronger front line, a lot of times it can compensate for having a little bit less damage, but often it's really hard to compensate with less damage, with more damage, because almost every unit has to ramp up, right? Either if you're a Guinsu user, you have to have ramp up, so you need time. If you're a caster, you need time to cast. But so frontline often is more safe to build towards. And that's like with augments or like stuff, like in general, right? Maybe that's a little bit opinionated, but that's why you might see a lot of the frontline anomalies being in A tier. It's because you can't really go wrong with them, right? If you take something that gives you like stacking AD, it's like, yes, it makes sense, but like if your frontline dies, it doesn't matter if you have more damage, because your backline's going to collapse too. You need a certain level of frontline to support your backline. So it's often beneficial to just have a little bit extra frontline. And that's how these things really, that's why, like, even like I had a thing yesterday where I did augments, and I said bulky buddies was really good. Similar reasoning, right? It just helped. It's always good, and that's what makes them great to take. If you see it, it's like, yep, I probably can take this, unless you really need something else. Repulsor. Oh wait, sorry, we can't listen to that. That's DMCA. Why is my playlist not looping? Let's go here. Let's go here. All right. Banger song, by the way. Gain 40% attack speed on cast, knock back their target. I've seen this work sometimes. 40% attack speed is a lot. So if you need attack speed, this is good. So I'll put in B tier, right? Compared to like some of the other attack speed ones, it actually gives quite a bit. It's just 40 up front, helps you to cast, helps you to do damage. I've seen this work really well on like Vlad rerolls, or like certain reroll lines where you just need to like remove a threat. It can help out a lot, so I think it's okay. 40% AS is a lot for what it is, so of the AS one, it's a little bit better. Scudder Familiar, I think is it's so troll. I'm gonna put in A tier. Share your energy. Share your energy. I don't know if you guys agree with this. I do not care though. I'm pretty sure this is S tier. I think anybody who doesn't think it's S tier hasn't tried it out. It doesn't look like it's S tier, but numbers wise, it's actually pretty massive. So combat start, 15% of attack damage, ability power, health, and armor to adjacent allies. 15% is actually a lot. Depending on the unit, you don't even need to use this on a unit that is like a main carry. A lot of times, you could just pick any like 4-cost unit, A 4-cost unit has a bunch of armor and magic resist, has enough of attack damage and ability power, and it grants it to all adjacent allies. You get so many stats off of this. If you see share your energy, I'm not even joking, it is pretty much an instant click. It is one of the most instant click anomalies that you can see in your life. It gives you so much stats. So much. Like, it's so hard to, because 15% looks like a small number. You have to understand that's 15% to all of the adjacent allies. It's not just to one ally, it's to all of the adjacent allies. It is a massive amount of stat. You get armor, magic resist. Like, let's just pretend that they have like 100 in everything. A lot of times you have like around, like, you know, or let's just say 50 in all of them, right? Let's say you have a unit that has 50 of all the base stats, which is even an understatement, right? An upgraded 4-cost, I think, has more than 50 in each of the stats, right? It gives 15% of that. What is that? That's like 7, 8. Let's round it to 8. It's like 8 ability power, attack damage, health as well. 15% of your health. They have around 1,000 health, so you get an extra 150 health on everybody. Armor and MR. It is so much stats, right? Even just the health alone is a massive amount of stats. If it's like 15% of your health to everybody, that's like a Garen. Like, you know what I mean? It is so much. And then you also get the armor matches, you also get the ability power, you also get the attack damage, and that's not even taken into account if you put like a TG on them, if they're a 3-star unit and you're re-rolling, if they're like, there's so many conditions where you get even more stats. It is so much. It also works really well with different augments. There's a lot of augments that give you stats like armor and magic resist and stuff like that. If you're playing sentinels and you have a massive amount of attack of armor and magic resist, if you're playing like something where you get a bunch of AP or AD, like the synergies, it ramps that up so fast. And items as well. It's so much stats. I cannot stress it enough. It is so much value for what it is. It is definitely S tier. I would not hear anybody trying to explain to me that it's anything less than S tier. I would think less of you as a TFT. No, I'm joking. If you think it's less than S tier, tall power to you. But I'm telling you now, out of all the anomalies, I'm pretty sure this one's the most busted out of every single anomaly on the list. Slime time. I've never seen this thing work. I'm gonna put it in. Every 2 seconds, deal 160 magic damage and 1 hex radius. Every 2 seconds is just so slow. I think it's C tier. I honestly don't think it ever works out. Slow cooker. Slow cooker is so specific. I'm gonna put in C tier. There's some spots where it works, but very rarely. Stone skin is S tier for sure. Of all the frontline anomalies, getting this much armor and MR early in the fight is so massive. Even though it reduces the bonus by 10, having early survivability is really important in most TFT fights, because a lot of times by the time Stone Skin loses its effectiveness and becomes to like a normal level of armor and MR, the fight's already over. It's insanely broken on a lot of rerolls. It's insanely broken on solo frontline units. Insanely broken on melee users. It's like the best anomaly you can find on Urgot. The best anomaly you can find on Echo. Like a lot of the time. It's just like giving somebody so much upfront survivability. It's massive. It's so much stats. It's so much stats. The only time you might not want to take it is if you're playing like full Sentinel frontline. But other than that, it is so much stats. You almost always click it instantly. Strength training. Every 3 times they attack, your team gains 4% attack damage. Where did I put this one for the magic one? Magic training? Yeah, so B tier. Same as that one. I already explained it. Finisher, I think, is B tier. The execute used to feel like it was really good, but in recent history, I find that it's not that good. I used to love finisher on Zoe, like finisher Zoe with Rebels or Sorks, but I feel like there's better anomalies. The execute isn't that great as opposed to like upfront stats is what I'm starting to find, because a lot of times, like, by the time you get them to a point where they're getting executed, it's like it's better on stall comps. That's what I'll say. Now that like there's less stall comps, there's more explosive damage. A lot of times the finisher just feels kind of weird because it's like it doesn't increase your effectiveness of your damage. It just kind of makes it so that like units die eventually. It's like that's why it's not A tier, right? So I think hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. Thorn skin, 60 armor, 60 magic resist. I think this is like B tier. There's obviously broken combinations. I don't want to hear somebody posting like the 100 fucking TikToks about how Thorn skin wins you the game if you have Thorn skin and Blinding Jewel and all sorts of other stuff. It's like, yes, I understand that's broken, but it's B tier. You're very rarely taking it outside of those situations. Or not rarely taking it, you're taking it and it's very average outside those situations. Titan of Teamwork. 1% durability for each star level. 3-star champions gain 6% durability instead. I feel like this is... Where did I put the other one? Force of Friendship, Titan of Teamwork. So it's in B tier with those ones, same reason. Touch of Frost, I think, is A tier. I think there's a lot of times where this is just really good. They buffed it so many times where now I'm starting to think that it is good. You basically just need a unit that has backline access. It's really good on Malzahar, good on Zoe, I think, good on LeBlanc. A lot of the comps that are meta that have backline access, it's pretty good on. I think even Twitch it might be good on, but you know what I mean. You just want to get the chill off, and then you want to get the stun. So anybody who has backline access, they can kill some of the units, so that even if you don't kill the backline unit, you at least stun the backline units. That's where it really shines. Titanic Strikes. Attacks deal additional 50% attack damage to the target and adjacent enemies. I think this is like B tier. It feels pretty strong sometimes when I take it. It's similar to some of the other ones, but it's like a worse version of Mini-Me's and 1000 Cuts in my opinion. Don't at me. Ultimate Hero I think is very situational. I'll put in B tier. Unstoppable Force. On takedown, charge the next target and then stun them. I think this is also B tier. I'd prefer some of the other anomalies I was talking about before. Vampiric Affinity I think is also B tier. It's just like a worse melee thing. Ferocious Appetite. This is still in the game, I'm pretty sure. I've never seen this though. I don't know why. Of all the games I've played, I haven't seen it a single time, but I'm pretty sure this shit's broken. I'm gonna put in A tier, but because I haven't seen it, I think it's probably S tier, but I just don't know for sure. So I'm gonna put in A tier. That's like the Briar, like get everything. Wolf Familiars I think is B tier. It gives you a lot of damage, but it really relies on you having a lot of attack speed. And then these ones I don't think are in the game. Or this one's in the game, but I can't rank it because it was bugged and I don't know if it's not bugged. Alright, so that's my anomaly tier list. Like I said, it's mostly for fun. Every anomaly has the potential to be a #1 anomaly. Every anomaly is broken on certain units. Every anomaly is broken with Ornn artifacts and combinations of augments. Every anomaly has the potential to win out and go first. This tier list is mostly for fun, and it gives you a general idea of, hey, these are some of the anomalies that are a little bit more widespread available that you can just use them on whatever unit that you want, and you'll probably get effectiveness out of it. And some of these anomalies are very specific, or the scaling on them is a lot worse, right? When you look at an anomaly though, you shouldn't look at it and say, there's a better option for me. It's like if you're looking for AD, guess what? You're taking one of the AD ones. If you need AD or you need AP or you need one of these, you take it. You need damage amp. Guess what? You're taking the damage amp. You need attack. You need crit chance. You're taking the crit chance. You have to identify what your board needs and take the anomaly, the first one that satisfies that, because you cannot guarantee an anomaly. So you rolling gold, hoping to hit something better, often will throw your game way more than it will help your game. You might have one game where you roll deep for an anomaly and you win the game because of it. I guarantee you there will be more games net negative LP that you have thrown for rolling deep for an anomaly. And that's a really important thing that I want to point out. And that's why I don't really like making anomaly tier lists, because I don't want to give beginners the bad mentalities and bad what's it called? Work ethics? I don't know what you call it. Intuition? Like I don't want to mislead beginner players that are trying to learn the game. Make sure that you always take an anomaly that fits your board well. Only greed if you really have to, or if there's like you're in dire straits, you need a win condition. But in general, take the one that best fits your board. That's all I have to say about anomalies. See ya. Bye-bye. Have fun. Tomorrow will be a better guide, I promise. I've been working on it. Just super busy. That's why we're doing the tier list, because these ones are easy to make and easy for me to record. But yeah, have fun. Enjoy your games. And, hopefully you hit some broken anomalies and you go first. See ya. Bye-bye.